Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Thursday night, September 28th, 2023. It's about 10:22 p.m. California time. Latest activity shows a 3.2 down here into the region of, looks like North Island area, New Zealand. Latest activity there on the globe. We did see some further westward plate movement here across the area of New Guinea, Papua New Guinea area, just east here around the Solomon Sea, a little subduction zone that sits here, seeing quite the swarming of earthquake activity in the last few hours or so. This may be building up something pretty nicely as far as large-scale movement goes. I have to keep an eye on this area. Again, the subduction zone sits within this zone, and, well, this area has been somewhat quiet here in terms of recent activity, so things may be filling in. 5.7, the largest in this little sequence of earthquake activity with variable depths there before for these earthquakes. Quite a few 5s and 4s in that mix there, so we'll continue to watch this area for some larger scale activity. Of course, all that comes following the 6.1 earthquake that we've seen much earlier this morning. But again, this general plate movement here adds strain. You can see earthquake activity back building here. It normally follows the path around the plate boundary, and that's where we're looking at returning of activity. But also, we got the return of some deeper movement quakes back here once again in Fiji as expected. So bouncing back and forth here between the plate boundaries. And we'll continue to watch this area, though, for some larger scale movement here soon. Indonesia Islands area. Banda Sea. 4.9, the last earthquake here earlier this morning. There is a handful of smaller quakes within this region. As you can see on the Earthquake 3D globe, looks like maybe a 2.9 coming in as well. Not a whole lot of movement across the Java Trench for now, but watch that region potentially. But right now it looks like most of the activity stirring up here across the Papua New Guinea area. All right, Kuril-Kamchatka Trench did see a 6.0. This area up here up north can see a much larger earthquake than that. It's been a little while since we've had a mega quake specifically along the subduction zone within this area, and it's capable. But for now, looks like USGS downgraded that to a 5.8 at about 15 kilometers deep or so into that subduction zone of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. One earthquake here on the west coast of Japan, 4.5. That earthquake earlier this morning. Let's see what we got for the Alaska area. Things stirring up here earlier this evening. I believe we had quite a few 2s up here. Let's see what we got. A handful of 3s in there as well. Looks like outside of Anchorage. The last one, a 3.1 near the Glacier View, Alaska, 17 kilometers deep. And of course, a handful of smaller earthquakes there in the last 24 hours. The Pacific Northwest, Mount St. Helens, continue to show some activity here with a handful of earthquakes there across the region. I know we haven't checked it in a little while, so let's go over and investigate the Mount St. Helens area, see if we got anything stirring up out there, maybe some abnormal activity. We'll see. Stand by here for just a second. Here is some of those earthquakes being reported there by the USGS. We're going to zoom into this seismograph station here called SEP and take a look at the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. This is starting to look like it was back when the earthquake swarm really picked up. Now, these are earthquakes. What I see here, these are well-defined, distinct earthquakes, and some, maybe it looks like earlier, when was this? This is probably late last night, I guess, sometime around there. Looks like somewhat of a larger quake in that area. So again, it's starting to look just like it was when the earthquake swarming kicked up here earlier this month. Now, what I do look for is similarities here with the seismograph stations. This one here looks a little more quieter. There's a handful of other quakes that may be shown up on this graph as well, but the majority, right over here as well, the majority of the quakes, or whatever is occurring up here, is right up at the crater area of Mount St. Helens. So none of these are big earthquakes whatsoever. In fact, the USGS, like I said, is showing the where'd we go? All right, There's that time warp tunnel again. The activity is very small. In fact, the largest one in the last 24 hours, a 5, or not 5.0, but 0.5, 3.5 kilometers deep. But it has been an ongoing thing here. I think it's been over a month now, hasn't it? Yeah, because we're starting to drop down here in the numbers. This is probably getting close to 200 earthquakes in the last probably 45 days or so. But this only goes back last 30 days. 145 earthquakes there at Mount St. Helens. So, the swarm still kind of looks like it's ongoing today. What may be causing it? Who knows? There's really no... well, let's check the gas emissions here real quick and see what we got. Relative humidity spiked up here, but that's because we do have some, I think, rain in the forecast there coming up. Carbon dioxide chart, pretty neutral. Not seeing any spikes. Didn't mean to close that out. The temperature here, not really seeing anything major going on as far as differences in that temperature at this station. I keep doing it. I wonder how many times I'm going to do it. Carbon dioxide looks about neutral as well. Sulfur dioxide, now earlier when this earthquake swarm kind of peaked up there earlier this month, we've seen a little spike in the past, the sulfur dioxide emissions here, and it has since kind of died off, but it looks like we're rising a little bit, slightly, no extreme peak at all. But this earthquake swarm seemed to kick off along with the coinciding of this spike in the sulfur dioxide earlier this month. Excuse me. So just kind of watching it for earthquake activity. As far as volcanic activity goes, it is an active volcano, but it's currently resting. Let's see what else we got out here. As far as the USGS goes in the earthquake department, a little bit of activity across the Mount Rainier region. It looks like a handful of smaller quakes in the last 24 hours. All right. And it looks like around Longview as well, down here. Not Texas, but out here in the Washington region. Handful of smaller quakes. Some of those are deep as well, though, underneath this region. The tremor map. Let me see what we got here for the tremor. Cascadia tremor, that is 138 epicenters of tremor. That is associated with the Cascadia subduction zone. Down dip, downstream here into this area underneath this land. Adding some strain upstream. Outside of Medford, underneath Medford, I should say, about 35, 45 kilometers or so down dip. All right, far as, let's back out of here, go back to the one-day map. And Oregon, not a whole lot going on through Oregon currently. Northern California, a handful of smaller quakes. One earthquake outside of Biggs, 2.1. 14 kilometers deep underneath the Sacramento Valley. And, of course, some movement across the Clear Lake volcanic field. That's going to be the Calpine hydrothermal operations there. Just an ongoing sequence of earthquakes, along with the process involved in creating those earthquakes. There's a whole story, an article. You can find them on the internet if you look up the Calpine hydrothermal operations there. I think that's still the name of the facility operations involved in creating energy around the Cobb Mountain area of Northern California. Southern California, goodness, looks a little quiet, doesn't it? Only a handful of smaller quakes out here in the last 24 hours. Nothing major going on. Pretty quiet conditions prevailing across the west coast. A little earthquake activity outside of Tucson, Arizona earlier this morning. And, of course, movement here across the Texas area filling in quite nicely around the oil fields outside of Pecos, Texas. These are wastewater disposal facilities. There's that pond out there. Those are not swimming pools. Those are wastewater disposal facilities out here. And they're peppered all across the Nevada desert and up into the Permian Basin area. And that's where the activity is kind of occurring out here today outside of Pecos in the oil fields. Movement outside of San Antonio, way down here near Falls City, it looks like. I don't have to bring up the satellite view. You guys can probably read this. Quite a few oil fields out here as well. these will eventually well, sometimes we'll see these get hit with larger earthquakes, and they'll be more prevalent in the future. That's probably just a fact as we watch the strain build up out here against this area. There's almost always strain on the plates. Oklahoma area, a couple ones and even a 2-pointer out there. Eastern portion of the country looks pretty quiet for now. As far as the Puerto Rico region goes, looks like some 2s and 3s up around the Puerto Rico Trench. Nothing major going on. The South America area, let's see what we got here on the globe. Looks like we did see a 5-pointer, potentially close to a 5-pointer, down here around the Chile area earlier this evening, about 108 kilometers deep. And one earthquake in the El Salvador area, 4.6 at, look at those numbers, not good. All right, let's see what else we got. The Big Island of Hawaii, anything changing out here? Well, looks like we're getting a little bit of activity out here across the Helens slump region. Mostly deeper movement quakes down there, 29, 30 kilometers or so. I think, it's important to watch these deeper quakes because that could be what will be, or that could be a sign of stuff stirring up well below the surface here in terms of the plumbing, the magma chambers out here, the plumbing system that involves this hot spot out here in the Pacific. It's got to watch that because that could be a sign of maybe charging things up, so to speak, out here. I don't think we're looking at it, anything firing up as far as the Kilauea volcano goes in the immediate future. The latest update there put out a couple days ago from the USGS shows that it's not erupting, and no significant changes have been observed at the summit zones or rift zones. And these guys believe that it's unlikely that the recent eruption will resume based on the behavior of past short-lived summit fissure eruptions, according to these past events there. So, again, we'll watch, the deeper movement quakes potentially, and then earthquake swarming that would indicate the presence of magma moving below. But for now, it's resting. All right, New Zealand area. Let's go back over here and check real quick. See what we got with that 3-pointer coming up. Yeah, 3.6. Looks like it's just off the North Island coast 26 minutes ago. Looks like a 2.3 and a couple other smaller quakes here. Unnoticeable earthquakes. There's always earthquake activity is stirring up out here across New Zealand. As far as the volcanic drums, we'll just give a quick glance here at this. Not for sure what this is. I don't know if there's any high winds going on across the area, across some of these stations, but I'm not seeing any seismic activity as far as earthquake movement goes. All right, quick glance there at space weather activity. As far as the Mediterranean goes, let's jump back here real quick. Doesn't look like I'm seeing any major large earthquake activity. Mostly 2s and 3s scattered out here in the last 24 hours, which is typical on any given day, right? Up there in the Mediterranean. As far as space weather goes, we've been fairly neutral. Not a whole lot of flaring in the past 24 hours. In fact, the current solar flare threat has dropped. 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at only 30, and X flare has been removed to probably only a 1% chance or lower. And that is due to, quite a few weakening sunspots out here, unfortunately. These just kind of diminished and continuing to float. Well, not float, but move off towards the western limb here of the sun. And we are left with a whole lot of nothingness. Yes, there is some flares or sunspots out here, but there's not a whole lot of flaring going on across this region. No likelihood that I can see from any of these in terms of large flare activity. If I had to guess, if I had to pick one, if you twisted my arm, I would say maybe this area down here. But we'll continue to watch out for some growth in terms of complexity within that magnetic core of that sunspot region. No major coronal holes are facing us. No major expected CMEs. But notice down here we're getting a little bit of elevated conditions here across the area of the polar regions. Let's see what we got here real quick. Currently sitting at where's our KP index here? It looks like 24-hour observed maximums are 1 minor, but it looks like we may be peaking up here a little bit into the KP index around 2 or so, but I don't think that's what's causing the elevated activity. A lot of times that BZ-BT component of the interplanetary magnetic field will point south and allow even just some minor wind stream to flow in, which could enhance the conditions out here. And that's looks like what's going on there. We weren't really expecting any type of solar weather events here, but occasionally it happens, right? The sun and everything else that goes along with the space weather department does have some surprises on occasion. So up there in the north, it looks like maybe Alaska, northern Alaska, getting in on some, and of course Canada. All right, let's see what else we got here. Anything major going on for the severe weather department? Doesn't look like it here over the next couple days. Just generally light activity when it comes to severe weather. Marginal risk is the key word, I suppose. As far as the numerical models out here, well, we do have some rain coming up to the west coast here shortly. It doesn't look like there's any major storms coming up, but we got a little bit coming in from a low pressure system that's going to bring in some cooler air here to the west coast area, including northern California, as that trough deepens directly over California. It's supposed to have some temperatures up in the, I should say down into the upper 60s. And that's going to be our afternoon highs out there. Looks like on the weekend. I'll take it. Continue to bake out here across the eastern portion of the country, but that's not going to last for too much longer, I don't think. There's going to be a cold front, at least some cooler conditions dipping down here slightly. Some ridging going on across the west coast. I'm hoping that's not going to last for too long because I'm ready for wintertime. I keep saying it. If I keep saying it enough, it'll probably happen. Far as the hurricanes go out in the Atlantic, I don't think we got anything major going on out here. Got Felipe, Rena. All these are expected to just continue to decline, and looks like this path out here for Felipe has changed from the Puerto Rico area. It was showing it drifting over here further west, but now it looks like we're taking a due north turn in terms of the forecast track line. Up and away. And let me look at the numerical models again here for this the Atlantic Ocean. That's going to be these two tropical systems down here. We'll put this into motion here. These are future forecast models. I want to see if we got anything stirring up out there that may be a threat to the states. And it doesn't look like it as far as any tropical threats go for now. But again, that's subject to change. It's a ways out there. But as far as any hints at any major tropical systems, it just doesn't look likely. All right, what else we got? I think that's about it, folks. I'm going to jump off here. Yellowstone, forgot to check Yellowstone, but it's been quiet. It's been awfully quiet here recently. No major earthquake swarms, no major unusual movement. These earthquakes right here, I believe, are going to be those quakes from this morning. Earlier this morning, it looks like 2212. Yeah, it's going to be these the larger events that we've seen earlier. That 6-pointer and also this activity off the coast of Japan that will show up across Yellowstone as far as these seismograph stations go. All right, guys, have a good one. We'll catch you guys back out here for Friday event, Friday earthquake update. That means that we're basically goodness, we are only 2 days away from the drawing coming up here on Saturday, folks. So get in on that member drawing. I will provide it as an up next video coming up here on YouTube. That way you guys can get in. If you haven't got in yet, all you got to do is write in the word earthquake, not in this video, but on the 100,000 subscriber giveaway video that will be coming up here. I'll put it center screen. Have a good one. We'll catch you guys back out here tomorrow morning, Friday. We made it. Have a good night, everyone. Peace out.